A 17-year-old girl walks out of the coffee shop where she works on the weekend and disappears without a trace. At first, no one suspects anything terrible has happened, but as the police investigate, clues emerge, each more disturbing than the last. The case quickly becomes headline news in Sweden, capturing the entire country's attention. More than 1,000 people join the most extensive search in the country's history. But what they eventually find shocks everyone. Lisa Holm, born on February 7, 1998, in a small, sleepy town in Sweden, grew up in a happy family with her parents and older sister. Life here was peaceful and quiet, where nothing bad ever happened. Lisa was a kind, lively, and determined girl. From a young age, she set big goals for the future. Before graduating from high school, Lisa decided to travel to Australia and pursue architecture. Her passion for exploration took her to many other countries with her parents. Since she was a teenager, Lisa has been financially independent, working many part-time jobs to earn money for her plans. But then, in the summer of 2015, when Lisa was 17, all those dreams and plans suddenly stopped. Lisa finally got her first serious job at a coffee shop, about a 40-minute drive from home. For the first few weeks, her parents took turns driving her there, but soon her dad decided to buy her a scooter, a gift of freedom that she was eager to receive. Lisa had a scooter license, but would have to wait until 18 to get a driver's license. As excited as she was about her new vehicle, she still had little experience on the road. So her dad would come along for the first few weeks, following in the car to ensure she was safe. Lisa only worked weekends, and her dad accompanied her every morning and evening. But on June 7th, he let his daughter drive to the coffee shop alone for the first time. It was around lunchtime. Lisa's parents decided to visit her at work and have lunch together that day. The cafe was quite crowded, and Lisa was busy serving customers. Despite her busy schedule, she took a break to sit and eat with her parents. They chatted happily, and then, at 6:23 p.m., Lisa texted her father that she was about to leave work. Just 3 minutes later, his phone rang. It was Lisa. But when he picked up, there was no answer. All he could hear was a jumble of noises in the background, someone's voice, the sound of traffic, and a loud bang, like a car door slamming shut. Lisa's father kept calling her name, but there was no response. After a few seconds of confusion, he ended the call, thinking that his daughter might have accidentally dialed the wrong number while talking to a coworker. But Lisa never came home. An hour passed, then another. She should have arrived long ago. Worry began to creep into her parents' minds. This was Lisa's first time driving such a long distance on her own, on a scooter. Had she had an accident on the road? Had her scooter broken down, or was it something worse? A bad feeling was building up, and now her father knew something was wrong. Lisa's father tried to call her several times, but her phone was turned off. The feeling of unease grew. After waiting in vain, he set out to find her, hoping to see her on the way back. Lisa should have taken the shortest route, but as he drove slowly, looking at every corner, he couldn't see her anywhere. Not a trace. The closer he got to the cafe, the more ominous the feeling grew. When he arrived, he looked around, but Lisa wasn't there. But then he noticed something strange. Lisa's scooter was still parked in front of a nearby building. For a moment he felt relieved. Maybe his daughter was just a little late? But as soon as he looked closer, the anxiety returned, this time more strongly. The keys were still in the ignition. Her helmet was hanging from the handle. Lisa never left her scooter in this condition. She was always careful and principled. Leaving the car with the keys like that was unusual, extremely unusual. At this point, he knew for sure that something terrible had happened. Meanwhile, Lisa's mother was extremely anxious at home. She kept calling the cafe owner to find out where her daughter was. However, the owner insisted that she had no idea where Lisa had gone. When she called the staff around 6 p.m., they said the shop had closed and left. A sense of danger rose. Without hesitation, the cafe owner immediately got in his car and drove to the scene, calling 4 nearby friends for help. When they arrived, they and Lisa's father began searching the cafe and the surrounding area. A glimmer of hope appeared. Maybe Lisa had decided to take the bus instead of using her scooter. The family immediately checked the bus schedule, and Lisa's mother and sister drove to the station near their town to pick her up. But when the last bus arrived, Lisa was not on it. There was no doubt about it now. Something was up. They called the police immediately. It was almost midnight. Darkness had enveloped the small town. The police wasted no time. They launched a massive search. Lisa's scooter was left with the keys still in the ignition, prompting the police to suspect a kidnapping immediately. Cases like this were rare in Sweden, especially in a small, peaceful town like Lisa's. But that only made the situation more terrifying. That same night, police groups were mobilized and divided into small teams. Sniffer dogs were deployed, sniffing around the crime scene. The police began knocking on doors near the cafe, asking anyone who might have seen anything unusual. When Lisa's friends and classmates heard she was missing, they immediately took to social media to spread the word. They hoped that they might find a witness, a clue, anything by attracting public attention. But an all-night search yielded no results. On Monday morning, the police officially announced Lisa's disappearance to the public, asking anyone with information to come forward. The nation was abuzz. At the same time, a man who had come to work at a warehouse across the street from the cafe accidentally found a motorcycle glove on the floor. Sensing something was wrong, he immediately called the police. Worryingly, detectives had checked the warehouse the night before but had not noticed the glove. When they brought it to Lisa's parents, they immediately confirmed this was Lisa's glove. A vital clue had emerged. But it only reinforced a terrifying reality. Lisa had been dragged into that warehouse, and someone had taken her away. The discovery of the glove further strengthened the theory that Lisa had been kidnapped. The police immediately mobilized more resources to expand the search. By this time, news of Lisa's disappearance had spread across the country. Hundreds of volunteers from all over the country had come forward to volunteer to join the massive search. On Tuesday, a series of alarming clues continued to emerge. Volunteers searched the area along a dirt road a few hundred meters from the cafe. There they found a phone case, a receipt, a ticket, and a broken smartphone screen. The police immediately arrived at the scene. They confirmed that all of these items belonged to Lisa. Focusing on this area, they quickly found more pieces of the phone, Lisa's ID card, and several other receipts. Her personal belongings were scattered along the dirt road. The discovery made the police almost sure that Lisa had been the victim of a kidnapping. There was no doubt about it. Lisa had not disappeared naturally. Someone had taken her. The police mobilized every available resource in the search. The number of people involved grew, and the case quickly became national news. Hundreds of volunteers from all over Sweden poured in to help. A missing persons organization also joined the effort, searching for Lisa, the largest in the country's modern history, with more than 1,000 people involved. At the same time, the police received many calls with information. One particularly striking testimony. A woman said she had gone jogging the day before Lisa disappeared, and at some point, she had seen something. A woman contacted the police, describing a suspicious situation she had encountered the day before Lisa went missing. While jogging on a deserted road, a man standing next to his car stopped her in the middle of the road. He spoke in English and asked for directions to a city she had never heard of. She tried to help by looking it up on Google Maps, but the man then asked her to get in his car so he could give her directions directly on the navigation system. This offer immediately alarmed her. She refused immediately and continued running. However, she remembered one crucial detail. She believed she had seen this man before among the workers repairing a barn across from Lisa's cafe. This was not the only suspicious testimony. Lisa's co-workers also shared an important observation. One of the witnesses noticed two men standing across from the cafe, staring into it on the day Lisa went missing. At the time, she didn't think much of it. However, after Lisa had disappeared, she decided to call the police. On Wednesday morning, Lisa's father and some friends continued searching along the dirt road where they had found her belongings. A little further, they found something even more alarming. Lisa's driver's license. and her house keys. Based on the scattered location of the items, the police came up with a terrifying theory. Lisa had been taken along the road, perhaps in a car or other vehicle. Meanwhile, her kidnapper had thrown her belongings out of the car. The police and hundreds of volunteers immediately focused their efforts on the area. But despite a thorough search, they found no further traces. That evening, a friend of Lisa's father, who had been searching all day, passed the café on his way home. He noticed that the police had removed the cordon around the warehouse where Lisa's glove had been found. Sensing something was amiss, he decided to go back and search again. Taking a flashlight from his car, he entered the warehouse, scanning every dark corner. After a few minutes, something shiny on the floor caught his attention. As he got closer, he realized it was a woman's earring. Looking around, he found another identical one lying nearby. He immediately called the police. When Lisa's parents saw the earrings, they immediately confirmed they belonged to Lisa. The police immediately cordoned off the warehouse again. They also brought in a professional forensic team and sniffer dogs, determined to search every corner for more evidence. This time, they found something strange. Behind one of the walls, they found human feces. At first glance, this seemed unrelated, but when forensic experts examined it more closely, they came up with a surprising hypothesis. Forensic experts explained that when a criminal commits a serious act, their body can produce a tremendous amount of adrenaline, sometimes leading to an uncontrollable need to urinate at the scene. For example, there have been reports of murderers urinating before or during the crime. Considering that Lisa's gloves and earrings were found in the warehouse, the police had a vital hypothesis. If Lisa had been kidnapped, it was very likely that the perpetrator had dragged her into this building. And if he was in a state of extreme adrenaline, it was possible that he could not hold it in and left traces at the scene. Not missing any clues, the police sent a stool sample for DNA testing. On Friday, the search area was expanded. Volunteers flocked to a farm about 2 miles from the café. It was a large complex with many buildings where many workers worked. The search team decided to check each building, but as soon as they arrived, 2 men appeared. They did not speak Swedish, only English. One of them said that the police had been to the farm before, implying there was no need to search further, but the search leader did not believe it. He knew that if the police had checked the area, he would have heard about it. He decided to ignore the 2 men and continue searching. The 2 strangers did not leave immediately. They walked around the farm, observing the volunteers for a while before getting in their car and leaving. About an hour later, the search team made a horrifying discovery. Behind the cowshed, under a pile of branches, they found a jacket, a motorcycle helmet, and headphones. The police immediately arrived at the scene and confirmed that all of these items belonged to Lisa. Forensic experts were immediately called to the farm to search the entire area. The police did not forget the details of the 2 strange men who tried to stop the search party. Now they put the pieces together. The woman who had been jogging told of a suspicious man who spoke English. The 2 men at the farm also spoke only English. The police had an idea about this person from the beginning of the search. They went to all the houses near the café, carefully checking every resident. They found 2 Lithuanian brothers living with one of their wives in one of those houses. None of the 3 spoke Swedish. They spoke only English. This could not be a coincidence. The police realized that the 2 Lithuanian brothers and the wife of one of them were the only people within a few miles who did not speak the local language. Moreover, they had other circumstantial reasons to suspect the trio. The brother worked in the warehouse across from the café and on the farm where Lisa's helmet was found. This meant they were familiar with the locations involved in the case, particularly the dirt road where Lisa's belongings had been scattered, which led directly to their house. Although there were no other suspects, the police decided to bring all 3 in for questioning. Meanwhile, forensic experts continued to search the farm area with volunteers. Soon their attention was drawn to an old trailer. It was lying in tall grass, seemingly abandoned for a long time. However, one detail made them wary. Just outside the trailer door, the grass was flattened, as if something had been there recently. Several blades of grass were stuck under the door, a sign that it had been opened recently. When the forensic experts pushed open the heavy door, a strong smell of decay immediately filled the air. Inside the trailer were several wardrobes, a sign that it had been used as a changing room for workers. Most of the wardrobes were locked, except for one. A sense of unease pervaded the space as they opened each one, and then, to their horror, they discovered Lisa's body stuffed into an open wardrobe hidden behind a pile of old clothes and rags. Despite the highly narrow space inside, the perpetrator had still managed to squeeze her body in. Lisa's neck was tightly wrapped with a rope, and there was a large amount of tape on her head. Her pants were pulled down, her shirt pulled up. The forensic experts determined that Lisa had died from strangulation. However, they found no signs of sexual assault. Lisa's entire outfit was sent to the lab for analysis, while news of her body being found quickly spread across the country. During this time, Lisa's kidnapping dominated the headlines in Sweden. But when her body was found and the public learned of her brutal murder, the entire country was in utter shock. Crimes like this were sporadic in Sweden, and no one could have imagined that such a horrific crime would happen in a small, peaceful town. That same day, another strange and creepy incident occurred. A YouTube user stumbled upon a video that had been uploaded 13 days before the murder. The video was titled 13 with a countdown timer. What made many people shiver even more was that the name of the YouTube channel that uploaded the video matched the victim's name, Lisa Holm. News of the video immediately spread across the media, causing public panic. Many began to speculate that someone had predicted the murder or that a mysterious ritual might have been involved. But in reality, the incident had a much simpler explanation. It appeared that someone had intentionally changed the name of the YouTube channel and the titles of the videos after Lisa's body was found, perhaps to fuel a new conspiracy theory or to play a cruel prank. Meanwhile, the police continued to focus on finding the killer as quickly as possible. 2 Lithuanian brothers and the wife of one of them were brought in for questioning, but all 3 denied any involvement in the murder. They claimed that they were at home at the time of Lisa's abduction, each with their alibis. The older brother, Naris, said he was sleeping in his room, his wife was preparing dinner, and the younger brother was on the computer. Naris also said that at around 8 p.m., he woke up and left the house to go to the gas station, where he bought pizza and cigarettes. The police were skeptical of their story. No outside witnesses could corroborate their testimony, and it was clear that they were covering for each other. The police collected DNA samples from all 3, but at that point they still had no evidence directly linking any of them to the murder. However, this did not last long. Forensic experts continued to work tirelessly, combing every inch of the barn and farm. They used all the resources and workforce available, determined to find the truth. And then their efforts finally paid off. An irrefutable piece of evidence emerged, taking the entire case in a new direction. The police continued to scour the barn and found a small office-like room with a large window that looked directly at the café. When they examined this room, forensic experts found 15 different traces of semen on the wall and floor near the window. Someone seemed to have stood there watching the café employees, including Lisa, and satisfied himself. These semen samples were immediately sent to the laboratory for DNA analysis. The results shocked everyone. All 15 traces matched the DNA of Naris, her 35-year-old brother. Not only that, the feces found in the barn also belonged to him. In the adjacent room, which had previously been used to store cow's milk, forensic experts found a pipe about 60 centimeters above the floor. The pipe was covered in thick dust, except for a small strip showing signs of being cleaned. When they measured the dimensions, they realized that this gap exactly matched the rope used to strangle Lisa. Another vital trace also appeared: blood on the pipe. DNA analysis confirmed that it was Lisa's blood. Right below the pipe, experts found a piece of rope identical to the one that killed Lisa. Upon closer inspection, they found 2 DNA samples on the rope, one from Lisa and one from Naris. At this point, the police had irrefutable evidence in their hands. Naris was not only involved in the scene, but he used this rope to kill Lisa. A strand of Lisa's hair was also found on the floor of this room, further strengthening the hypothesis that she was murdered right there. Another critical piece of evidence appeared on Lisa's coat, on which experts also found Naris's DNA. Based on all these findings, the police reconstructed a possible case scenario. Naris could have been observing the café from the barn window. As Lisa left the bar and headed toward the parking lot alone, he approached her. Based on the testimony of the woman who had run into the English-speaking suspect, he may have pretended to ask for directions to an unfamiliar city or used some other trick to approach her. He may have asked her to get into his car to enter the route into the GPS. She may have agreed since Lisa was a kind girl who always tried to help others. However, when Lisa got into the car, he immediately covered her mouth and drove to the warehouse. There, he strangled Lisa with a rope and hung her from the pipe. According to forensic experts, the strangulation may have caused Naris to become highly excited, leading him to defecate on the floor due to the overwhelming adrenaline shock. After Lisa died, he put her body in the car and drove to the farm, throwing her belongings out the window along the way to create a distraction. Upon arrival, he hid her body in the trailer's storage locker, covering it with old clothes and rags. All this took less than an hour. Despite the police's overwhelming evidence, Naris steadfastly denied any involvement. His wife and brother were released because there was no evidence against them. They both left Sweden and returned to their native Lithuania immediately after release. Meanwhile, preparations for the trial were intense. In court, Naris claimed that he had worked in the warehouse for many years, so it was natural that his DNA would be present at the scene. He also had an alibi from his wife and brother, who claimed he was home at the time of the crime. Although the police doubted the credibility of these two witnesses, this could still be a point in Naris's favor in court. What he didn't know, however, was that the police still had a crucial card up their sleeve. A piece of evidence that was more valuable than anything else was about to be revealed. A piece of evidence that could shatter all of his denials. Finally, the most substantial evidence emerged. Naris's DNA was found on Lisa's clothes, including inside her underwear. This was a detail that could not be explained by any other means than direct contact with the victim on the day of the murder. Not only that, the police also found a key witness who claimed to have seen Naris's car near the café shortly before and immediately after Lisa was kidnapped. According to the witness's testimony, the car drove along the road between the café and the farm several times, coinciding with the time Naris claimed to be at home asleep, according to his wife and brother. In the months since Lisa's body was found, experts continued to analyze all available evidence using the most advanced forensic equipment. They continued searching for any clues that could strengthen the case, as the entire country closely followed every development. Realizing the importance of the testimony that could change the trial's outcome, investigators even traveled to Lithuania to reinterrogate Naris's wife and brother. The wife insisted that her husband was home from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m., but everything changed abruptly when it was the brother's turn. After the police showed him all the evidence against Naris and described in detail what he had done to Lisa, the brother collapsed. He admitted that Naris was not home that night and only returned around 7:30 p.m., covered in dirt. He immediately threw his clothes into the washing machine when he got home. The brother also recalled that when the police began questioning all the residents in the area, Naris whispered to him, "Tell them I was home at that time." When asked why he had lied earlier, the younger brother said he truly believed his brother was innocent and only protected a relative. But when faced with a barrage of evidence, he realized that Naris was indeed the killer. Just a month after Lisa's murder, her funeral was held. The church where the service occurred could only hold 130 people, but hundreds, even thousands, came to say their final farewells. The organizers even had to set up extra benches and a large screen outside so that everyone could watch the service. Naris' trial began 4 months after Lisa's murder. The case once again attracted national attention. The pressure was on everyone involved, as no one was allowed to make a mistake. Naris's lawyer still tried to defend his client, insisting that his DNA could be found on Lisa's clothes because he had worked in the warehouse. However, the prosecution quickly dismissed this argument, pointing out that it made no sense, especially when considering the DNA inside Lisa's underwear. The only way his DNA would have been there was if he had touched the victim. The lawyer could not develop any other convincing argument to prove Naris's innocence. In a last-ditch effort, he even tried to turn the tables by claiming that the real killer was Naris's younger brother. According to this theory, the younger brother had somehow taken multiple samples of Naris's DNA and placed them on the victim's body as well as at the crime scene. This defense was almost immediately dismissed, as there was no evidence to prove the younger brother was involved in the case, other than that he had covered up for his brother. Finally, after months of investigation and trial, the verdict for the killer was given. The trial lasted a month, and in the end, Naris was convicted of murder. He was sentenced to life in a high-security prison in Sweden. However, since this was Sweden, which has one of the most humane prison systems in the world, his prison conditions were like those of a decent 3-star hotel. Naris's lawyer tried to appeal the verdict, but the appeal was rejected in early 2017. Naris himself then applied for deportation and requested to be transferred to a prison in his home country, Lithuania. The real reason behind this decision was not disclosed, and it raised many questions. Prisons in Lithuania are significantly worse than those in Sweden, so many people did not understand why he would voluntarily leave a prison with better conditions. However, the answer was soon revealed. In late 2017, while already in a Lithuanian prison, Naris appealed to the local court. His life sentence was reduced to 15 years, but his joy was short-lived. Just a few weeks later, a Lithuanian court overturned the decision, and Naris was sentenced to life in prison again, this time without the possibility of returning to a comfortable Swedish prison. 5 years later, in August 2022, Naris faced another incident. During the transfer of prisoners to another area, one of the prisoners attacked him with a knife. Naris was seriously injured and died on the way to the hospital. The killer's journey ended in a cold Lithuanian prison where he could no longer escape his fate. But the question remains, was his wife innocent? Police noted that it was unlikely that she was directly involved in the kidnapping or murder. If she had been, her DNA would have turned up on Lisa's clothes or belongings. However, it cannot be ruled out that she knew about her husband's crime and helped him escape justice by providing a false alibi. As for Naris's younger brother, questions have also been raised about his involvement. Café workers reported seeing 2 men standing near the warehouse and watching them from afar. If one of them was Naris, the other was likely his younger brother. However, there was no DNA from the younger brother in the warehouse or on Lisa's clothes, which led the police to believe that he was not directly involved in the murder. It is possible that the 2 brothers watched the young employees in the café together, even discussing inappropriate things, but only Naris carried out the barbaric act.